All right, so I'm gonna teach you how to lead. Everything you need to know, very simple. There's a few different steps. The first step is to metal prep your weld. All these welds right here, this is what we're gonna be leading, this area right here. These welds have been taken down to the thickness of the metal, which is about 18 gauge. If you leave that weld thick, well, you're going to put too much heat on this metal to make sure that the flux sticks to that thick weld. So you want to make sure everything is even, because then you'll burn your metal, and it's very easy to burn the metal. And you don't want to do that, because if the metal's too hot, the flux won't stick. The flux basically is this product right here. This you apply to the metal with heat, and it basically creates the glue so that the lead sticks to the piece of metal, the panel you're trying to lead. Lead does not stick to sheet metal. It will just fall right off. So this is basically your glue. So this is the first step. What I like to do, I like to use a ruler to see how much of this flux we're going to need. So that's my gap right there. Okay, see, it's only right here. I need more lead, less here. So what I do is I like to mark it here so I know where to flux, so I don't waste any material. And yeah, that's about it. I'm going to add a little teeny bit right here too. You see, there's a little bit of a square edge right here, so this needs to be fluxed right here, because I'm going to apply some lead in on the inside right here. So basically I need to flux all of this, because this is where my lead needs to be applied. See, these are actually really hard. The more you chop a car, you have to pull this post out, the A-pillar, so it creates a gap. So sometimes it's really hard. You can actually make this whole piece and you don't even need to use lead, but I don't mind using a little lead. It's not a big deal and it takes no time at all. Alrighty. Alright. Now that we know where the flux is going to go, the glue basically, we're going to grab one of these little throwaway brushes right there, either like, you know, a few 50 cents or whatever at Ace Hardware. And what I like to do actually is trim the end just a little bit here. Hold on. I just like to trim the end. You don't need all those bristles. But I like those. I don't like to keep rags full of flux. They're nasty, they're sticky. So I use these little throwaway brushes. Okay, so basically all I use is either MAP gas or propane. The heat you need to lead is definitely not the heat you need to weld with the torch. So the lead melts at 621 Fahrenheit or 328 degrees Celsius. So, and don't let people tell you that lead is not good, because when the car sits in the sun, the lead will melt. That's just the stupidest shit I've ever heard in my life. So don't let people tell you this. So first thing you do, got your gas, you put a little heat right here, keep your things close, and you'll see. You apply just a little bit, not too much. And this gray will turn silver basically. It's starting. And then you just keep moving it. See, it's turning color. So that's now melted flux. And that lead will stick to it. And the reason I put a Sharpie line is so I don't put too much. There's no reason to waste your product if you know where it needs to go. So put it right here. Now you always want to make sure you put, what I like to do is, this is my Sharpie line right here. I like to keep it just a little bit outside of that. That way if I need to go back, I know there's flux there. Because the worst is when you're all leaded, and then you got to go back and add more lead later, and then you got to flux and melt the lead. It's a big nightmare. So hold on here. Now all that brown here is the acids that are in the flux. One of the most crucial parts of leading is actually getting rid of all that brown nasty acid, because that, if it's not cleaned up, it will come back in your lead later and you'll have problems with your paint. Everything is going to bubble, so those chemicals are really bad. So see how it's pretty fast. You don't need to use too much. It keeps feathering. You know, like you grab the end right there. Boom. Anybody can lead. Lead is not used as much as it used to be back, like nowadays, compared to back in the 60s, 70s, 50s, and but it makes for a stronger joint than plastic. So, and it's flexible. Okay, now you see this. I'm going to put this away. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you something here. Hold on. Let me grab this right. So what I like to do also is to get rid of some of that brown before I clean it. That way it's less, so here you go. I like to keep it clean. There's no reason to keep it all dirty and okay. See the difference in color? This area and this. So now that's your flux. So the next step, I'm gonna let this. I'm gonna flux this little part right there. That way I don't have to come back. Sorry if the camera's moving. It's my first time doing this, and I don't know exactly how much this camera's wobbly. Put a little teeny bit on the inside right here, because the lead's going to stick to that. So that's it. And I'm just going to clean that up. Then I will show you the next step, which is cleaning all this acid on the panel. See all that brown? All that brown here is acid that, if it's not clean, neutralized with some baking soda, then you'll have serious issues later with the paint. Some people like to use these scrubbies, like brass, copper. They sell them at the hardware store. Just to, once it's hot, you use that to spread. But using just my little brush, it works just as fine. As you can see, if I can bring it closer, the brush is not even melted, the wood. I mean, barely any heat on it. I put the heat on the panel, on the flux, and then I use this just to spread it, you know. So I don't really like to use those little steel wool pads, but most people do. I don't know, you kind of, when you lead for a while, then you figure out what you like, what you don't like, and what works best for you. So now I'm going to show you what this product is. You can probably just Google that. They sell them at Eastwood. This is not an Eastwood brand, but they sell this at, I think it was eBay. Next step is to clean this. And to clean this, all you need is some baking soda from the hardware store, from the grocery store, wherever, and a wet rag and some water. So all I do now is I go and add, and I go overkill with the cleaning process, because that is the most important process of the whole job. If that is fucked up, then your whole fucking thing's fucked up, and you gotta melt it and get rid of it. So I don't even put that much water, because I only, see, you just gotta turn a little milky like that, and that's plenty. So I like to keep it like this, and then I bring a little baking soda to the car, and then all you do is you grab the rag, make sure it's wet, don't bother if it's not wet, and then this will neutralize all the acids in your lead. And you want to make sure you get everywhere where this flux might have touched some metal. Doesn't matter if it's all messed up and you got to go back and sand that rust. You'd rather sand rust than acid through your paint, so don't worry about it. And then what I like to do is I go overkill. I like to sprinkle baking soda on it. Everywhere that might have been some flux. Like I said, I can't say it enough. This is the most important part of the job. There you go. You get in there. I've never had issues with lead and rust because I go overkill on this step. So if you do that, you won't have a problem. Now, what you want to do is get some fresh water and go clean that metal one more time without baking soda. Just water and a rag. So, I go back, clean this. I know it sucks to put water on the sand and metal, but got to do it. See, the flux might have dripped on that fender. I might as well wipe it off. There you go. All right, the cleaning part is